Hello.
Okay, time for section 2 of tonight. To pick up on the web typography, I went to my bookshelf, and this here is a classic reference on typography in general called The Elements of Typographic Style by Brinhurst. It's a very standard text. I don't know if it's, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Brinhurst, and of course these same principles for print apply to the web to some degree. This is a style guide, web style guide. There are lots of web style guides that talk about layout and typography. There's also a couple of really good websites, one of which is called alistapart.com. And alistapart.com has several articles on web typography if you do a search on Alistapart and web typography. Alistapart is one of my favorite websites for web design articles. Sitepoint.com is another good website for web tutorials, how-tos, and philosophy. So we can talk a little more about that later. Let me put those away. All right, so let me get back to sharing my screen. Okay, are you seeing my screen now?
Yep.
Good. So yeah, so Alistapart, this is an old article. Yeah, it's about 10 years old, but the principles are still very similar. But there are actually newer articles to talk a little more about accessibility. And so forth. And again, we'll get more into those later. We were on floats and clears. How's your understanding of that?
Pretty good. I think you've been hitting it, you know. I
So
got
remember,
through with the knowledge you posted on your lessons, or I think I did. You'll tell me.
Okay. And the clear is always most of the time used in conjunction with the float. And again, you put a clear on the object that follows the parent of the floated object. And let's see here. Now let's start to put some things together. So what I ask you to do is you're basically going to use floats and box model properties and images and paragraphs and so forth. So I'm going to start out with, here it is. Okay, so this is just a very straightforward web page. It has a headline, three headlines, and a couple of paragraphs. That's all it has on it. Some headlines and paragraphs so far, right? And so let's see, let's put that over there. So that's what I'm calling exercise 8.html. I also have an image I'm going to use. And it's not in there. Oh, there it is. John with mask, and that's my photo of me with the mask that you probably just saw in Zoom. And then a style sheet that we're going to create. So I got these things at the ready. Here's my image. Come on, computer, launch the image, please. Kerchunk, kerchunk. Anyway, it's an image. It's a JPEG, and there it is. So I'm going to use that in my float. All right. So first I'm going to take this image and pull it into Photoshop. Let's do a little quick optimization review. I want to resize it and make sure it's optimized for the web. Come on, Photoshop. You can do it.
For learning purposes, can we use pictures that we used in the other exercise?
Sure. The picture can be anything you want. It could be you. It could be a cow, a flower. I don't, whatever you want. Some kind of image. And when my there we go. So I'm going to start with this image. Let's see how big it is in terms of pixels. Look at its canvas size. Hello, come on, Photoshop. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Come on. Oh, I see it opened in the screen. Sorry, there it is. All right. So this image is 800 pixels wide. Well, I want to make that quite a bit smaller because I want to put it on a web page and float some text around it. So I'm going to, well, actually, before I do anything to it, I'm going to crop it in. Okay, so I'm going to crop this guy. And now I'm going to see what that size is in its canvas. Do I need to crop it anymore? 392. You know, I'm going to make the whole thing a little smaller by going to image size and scale it down. I'm going to make it 200 pixels, 250 pixels wide, something like that. And that looks like its actual size. There it is. Okay, so now if I'm going to save it for web, I would go to, and my Photoshop is old, so I have Save for Web in a file menu. Newer Photoshops have a, what do they call it? Save for Legacy and Devices or something, and then you find the Save for Web. But you will get to this window where you can, it looks like it's fairly optimized already. I think it was pretty low-res photo. Yeah, 13K, that's nice and small. Let's make it a little better quality. 26K, how about medium? Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, so I'm going to save this image. I've optimized it. Now, oh wait, untitled folder. I didn't want to put it in untitled folder. Let me do that again. Save as. I want to put it in this folder, right over the old one.
Have fun. See what you like. See what you don't.
Hi, baby. Good. Good.
Okay, so I now have this image. So that image is an image I'm going to put on this page, and I'm going to float it.
Hello, sweetie. You look so
Oh.
fat, like you ate some food.
Somebody needs to mute themselves.
Oh, you want your bed?
Who is that? Let's see. Well, since only one, I'm going to mute. Okay, now you're all, if you want to speak, just unmute yourself. All right, so what we have here is just a simple image, John with mask.jpg. I've got a capital J, W, and M. Okay, I got to remember that. Okay, so I'm going to take this image. First, I'm just going to stick it above this paragraph. And IMG src equals, and I have it inside an images folder on my desktop. So I'm going to say images / John with mask.jpg. Great. Now my neighbor has to do lawn mowing when I'm videoing. Okay. Can you hear that lawnmower? I hope not. Does that look right? Let's
It's
see.
not too bad.
No,
Okay, I'm gonna save that.
I it to start it and now
And not seeing it. So where's my mistake? Image source equals images / John.jpg. Did I save it? Oh, maybe I didn't save it. I'm not sure. Save it. Reload. Where's my image? Oh, my exercise 8 is here. Am I looking at the right exercise 8? Yes. It's going into the images folder. It's finding images John with mask.jpg. Let's try that.
Do you need another bracket after image?
I don't see a typo. Let's see. John with mask.jpg images. Images / While I'm in here, let me just add an alt equals.
I have my hand up.
Oh,
Check the
Leslie.
spelling on your file. Check the spelling on your file name. It went by really fast. So it could be my eyesight. No, in the images folder. I could be wrong.
John with
No, I
mask.
guess it's fine.
It should be showing up, so let me find out why it's not. Let's
Never
see.
mind.
John with mask.jpg. Exercise 8. It is the right exercise 8. It's the first time I've used brackets, but that shouldn't really make a difference. So what am I missing here? I'm doing this so you can tell me what the mistake is. Oh, I see. Sorry, quote there. Let me put the quote in here. Oh, is that the extra bracket you were talking about? Somebody said I had an extra bracket. Oh, what do you know? This text editor is doing things on its own. Why is it? Oh, it's putting a double. Oh, duh. Okay, yeah, because I missed the quote. There we go. No wonder. Typo on my end. Images, JPEG, alt equals. There we go. I think I fixed it. It was missing. I think I forgot the ending quote. Okay, let's save that. Let's reload that. Hopefully the image will show up now. All right. So there's an image. It's not floating. Okay. Pull that over there. Now, let's say I want to put this image inside this paragraph. Now, without floating this image, if I take it and I stick it right after the opening paragraph there, okay, I'm going to see an effect I don't really want. Because an image is an inline level object, an inline level element, it's actually in the line of text just before the lorem of lorem ipsum, right? So that's what happens if you put an image in a paragraph and you don't float it. Okay, now I can do a float with either an external or internal style sheet. Do you guys have a preference? Hearing none, I'll do it inside the head section. I'll do a style section. I hope you don't hear that lawnmower because it's loud.
No, it just
Yep.
sounds kind of muted in the background.
Okay, good. The other day I had a leaf blower going when I was doing this. Like, oh man, really? Some people are really into their yards.
Chainsaw.
Huh?
Chainsaw is the only thing that'd be better.
Okay, so I am, oh, test. It's my classic error that I always do, test instead of text. Okay, so I'm gonna make an internal style sheet here. And I see this text editor automatically adds the end style, which normally would be helpful, but I'm not used to that, so I'll get used to that. All right. And I forgot the quote. That's why the colors are all wrong. There we go. Now, let's say that I want to float this image, right? Now, I can just do I can do this. I can say, I can use image as my selector. And I can say float, colon, float on the right or the left. You got a preference? I'll say left. Okay, have to spell it correctly. So I've got my float left. And that's all I've done so far. I've said image float left. So I'm going to save that. Now you see the difference there. Now that the image is floating, it's actually inside the paragraph, but you notice it's busting out of the paragraph into the stuff below it because the image is too big for the amount of text. So we're just going to add a lot of text. I'm going to take this lorem ipsum, copy that, oops, copy that, and let's put a little more text in there. Save that, and now I've added a lot more text to the paragraph. So now the image is not busting out of it. So again, you don't want to float something inside something that's too small to accommodate the floated image or the floated paragraph or whatever you're floating. Now, do you notice how there's no margin spacing in here? The old box model could come in handy now, couldn't it? You think I should put some spacing in there? Does that look a little too tight to you guys? I
Yep.
hear you thinking it looks too tight. Good. All right.
Ron. It looks too tight.
Yes, thank you. Now, what do you think about the fact that I didn't set a width on it? I didn't need to because it's an image and it has an inherent width, right? So normally I would put a width on it, but I know the width is 250 and I could, oh, that's cute. I like that feature. What if I hover over that, does it, hey, I like that. Oh, I like this brackets text editor. Okay. Anyway, I didn't need to put a width on it because it's an image and it has an inherent width. Now, let's play with the box model settings so this looks better. Okay. So now let's talk about let's put a little margin space on it. First, we're just going to put the same margin all around it, and then we're going to change that. So I've got my float left on the image, and now I'm going to say, what if I say margin colon 10 pixels? What will that do? That will put 10 pixels space on all sides of it, won't it? And I save that and I reload. Now, okay, I don't necessarily want to have the space on the left because I want the nice alignment with the left-hand side of all the text, right? So I want to set the top, right, bottom, and left differently. So remember, it's top, right, bottom, left. Not nines. I'm trying to put zeros here. Top, right, bottom, left. Now that's 0 pixels all around, and that'll be back to what we had before. Oh, after I save it and reload it, that'll be back to what we had before. But I don't want extra space on the left or the top. I want extra space on the right and maybe the bottom. So I'm top, right. Let's make that 15 pixels. Bottom, left. So now we're just going to do the right. And maybe a little on the bottom, top, right, bottom. I'm going to say 5px on the bottom. So a lot of times when you're doing this, you want to eyeball it and see what looks good. And oh, yeah, always have to save it before you reload it. Now, I don't see much difference because the way the lines are breaking. But what if I said 10 pixels on the bottom? Let's try that. Save, reload. See, sometimes when you have the way the lines break, it's not going to be exactly what you want. The problem is if you were doing print, you could get this exactly the way you wanted. But on the web, text can reflow and text size can change. So it's a little, you have to accommodate the differences for what happens when those lines break in different ways and the font sizes are slightly different and so forth. And the leading could be different. So I would probably, one thing I could do is I could add some secondary leading here. Remember what CSS property leading is? Or primary leading, I should say. No? Anybody remember line height? No? Okay, well, we'll skip that for now, but I want to focus on the box model. But that's one thing I might do because I might want a little extra space between each line. But right now I'm worried more about, I'm going to give it just a little more space on the right and a little less on the bottom, top, right. Let's give that, I'm really going to be fine tuning this too much, maybe 16. And let's make that 8. Let's just see what happens if I save that. Maybe a little more. I'll give it 20. Okay, so let's say I do that. So you can see how I use the margin setting on that, right? Now, we're gonna use this as an example of working with classes as well, and kind of pull a few previous things together. Okay, so that's okay, but let's say I want a border around the image. Sometimes images look nice with borders, right? So maybe I want to also do a border. Now, oh, I see, it wants to do this. Well, yeah, we'll keep it and did it that way. So now, remember, when you specify a border, oh, look, it's even giving me the properties. What an interesting text editor. Okay. When you specify a border, you want to specify both the border dash style and the border dash width. Because border dash style is where you say whether it's a solid line or a dotted line or a double line. And typically solid is what you want, just a straightforward line. If I did that and I didn't say how wide it would be, how wide do you think the browser would make it? That looks wider than 1 pixel, doesn't it?
And is the parent element.
Pardon me? Come again?
That looks like several, but I would have
Yeah,
guessed.
I'm not sure, but it looks like more than 1. So let's add the border width property. And again, some browsers may default to 1 pixel, 2 pixels. I mean, you don't know what the browser is going to default to, so you really want to specify things and not leave it up to the browser. And I'm going to say 1 pixel, which would be the thinnest possible border, because I can't really split pixels. Save that. And really, is that only 1 pixel? Oh, wait, it helps if you don't have an error. Let's give that a semicolon. Okay, now that's a 1 pixel border. How's that look? Not too bad. Better, yeah. Sometimes images look good with borders, sometimes not. Now, to illustrate padding, let's try 5 pixels and see what that looks like. So I'm going to say padding 5 pixels and keep the top right, bottom, and left all the same. And now you see the padding is the space between the content and the border. Is this all starting to come together and make a little more sense? Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, let's say I wanted to have a caption with the photo, and also let's say I also wanted a photo credit with the photo, right? So let's put a couple more things into this. Now, if I'm going to have a photo with a caption and a credit, and I'm going to float that in a sea of text, I probably do want a box around the whole thing, but maybe not just the image. Maybe I want a box around the image with the caption and the credit to kind of keep it all together. So in that case, I might do something slightly different. I would create another container that would contain the image and the credit and the caption, put a border around that, and float that. Does that make sense? If we look at what the exercise asks you to do, which is in one of these windows, let's go through and do this. Let's see. Okay, so all your basic stuff on the, okay. You're going to have validator buttons. You're going to have a meta tag. Okay. You're going to have a link to your home page. Let's pretend we have that. Okay. Now, the page has to contain an image within a paragraph within a div. And the div will be my container for the whole thing, right? So what I'm going to do is place the image in a div and have the div be the float. Okay. So let's start by doing that. I have to go back to my HTML. I have to throw a div in here. Oh, now I have a paragraph, an image in a paragraph and a div. I can't put a div in a paragraph, so I have to flip this around. You cannot put a div inside a paragraph because a paragraph cannot contain any block level elements. A paragraph is considered the smallest of the block level elements. A paragraph is considered a discrete unit of thought. And so it wouldn't make sense to subdivide up a paragraph with other block level elements. That's why we can never put a div inside a paragraph. We can never put a paragraph inside a paragraph, which is kind of nonsensical if you think about it. But we can put a paragraph in a div. So what I'm going to do is wrap a div around the paragraph. To fulfill the goal of the exercise. Oh, see, this is going to write the div for me. Great. Okay. Now I have the paragraph inside the div. I have the image inside the paragraph. Now the image is still floating inside the paragraph. Now, if we just do that and don't change anything else, let's just take a quick look at what that looks like. Where is that? It's here. No, here. So wow, that changed quite a bit when the size of the page changed. So you see how the floats are kind of nice because you see the effect of the float. So that's a classic float. Floats are very handy. But we want to now add some things to the inside the div. So the exercise said an image inside a paragraph inside a, did it say an image inside a paragraph inside a div? To remember what my own exercise said, I believe it did say that. No, that's not what we want. That's not what we want. We already looked at those. There we go. An image inside a paragraph in a div. Apply the following box model properties to the image. Okay. Image inside a paragraph inside a div. I'll pull that over there for a minute. We don't need that anymore. And we don't need that anymore. All right.
Do we need a certain amount of like writing on in our coding to be able to make it float to the left?
Or right, yes.
Oh, okay. So you do need a certain amount.
Yes, you have to have enough. You have to have enough of a sea of text to have an image float within it. If you don't have enough text, you're not going to see the float effect. So if you don't have enough text, or you make the page too wide, you'll see something like this. There, you're not really seeing a float. Here, you can actually see the float in action. I might want to remove just a little of that extra space on the right while we're looking at that. So I'm going to go back to the style sheet. I'm going to go back to 15 on this. Save it, reload, and that's a little more even. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am going to put some. I'm going to start with a photo credit, and I'm going to put it under the image. And since it's a photo credit, I'll make it really small, and I will maybe put it underneath to the right. So we're going to do some adjusting here. So I have this image inside the paragraph in the div. Now, I'm going to have to change my border. We'll do that in a second. But let's put a credit under the image. Now, here's the tricky part. The border's in the wrong place, so I'm going to take the border off for now. By the way, do you know how to comment out a style? Anybody?
I don't think so.
Okay, so let's talk about a comment. I'm going to comment this out. If I do a /*, which is the asterisk key, and then I end that with a */, then I have effectively commented out those two lines. The beginning of a comment in CSS style sheets is /*, the end is */. And that can be a multi-level, multi-line comment. That just makes that go away. The browser will not use that style, but then I could take it, I could keep it there and just for reference, but it's not going to be used by the browser. A // at the left of a line will comment out that line. So I could also just say // here and // here, and the // comments out the line, but I'm going to go back to what I had before and do a multi-line comment. Now I've gotten rid of the border. I save that, I reload, and no border, because we're going to put the border around the whole thing. We're going to apply the border actually to the div. In fact, let's do that. Let's take this div here, put a border around it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a little building block. Let me explain what I'm doing. Let's say I have a website and I'm going to have, you know, multiple photos with captions and maybe photo credits as well, right? Well, I'm going to set up a styling so that I use the same styles on all the different parts of the website where I have the photo and the caption and the credit. So the only thing that might be different is maybe I'll float some to the right and some to the left, but actually internally I want that box to be consistently styled. So the photo credits are all the same size. The captions are all, let's say, flush left and italic or whatever. So I'm going to create classes to do that. So we're going to tie in a few things here. So this div, I could put a border. I could use div as a selector, but then every div, my whole website would have a border around it. But I only want borders around the divs that are containing photos. So maybe I should create a class. Yeah, maybe I should. Maybe I should create a class called photo box. Let me create this class called photo box. So I put dot photo box. I'm creating this class, and photo box is what I'm going to put the border around. So I'm going to take the border stuff here, X that out of there. I'm going to put it in photo box. Take out the comments, so it's not commented out anymore. And I've created now a class called photo box that has a border. And I'm now going to take this div and I'm going to give it that class equals photo box. So what I'm doing is I'm setting up a class that I'm going to reuse over and over and over again on my pages once I get this the way I want it to look. That way, when I put other photos on my website, they'll all be styled the same way with the same kind of border, the same kind of caption styling, the same kind of credit styling, and so forth. So by creating this class called photo box and applying it to the div, which is going to be the parent of this whole box containing the photo and the credit and the caption, I can easily reuse it and have the same consistent styling. So I've now applied the class of photo box to the div, and I've said it has a border. And now if I reload this, oops, made a mistake. I applied the class of photo box to the div that contains the paragraph. I forgot that I already have a div around the paragraph. I wasn't thinking. So I need to have another div. Okay. What I want to do is I want to have, what was my, let's see, I need an image inside a paragraph inside a div, an image inside a paragraph inside a div. I have an image inside a paragraph inside a div that's going to be inside another div. And so I'm going to have a nested div because the div that was the paragraph yeah, you know, I could have written this differently, but we'll do it this way. Okay, because that's the way I wrote it. Okay, so I have a div and then a div, and I'm going to end this div here. Slash div. Oh, it wrote it for me. Save that. Now take a look. Oh, did I save it? Oh, I still have it on the wrong div. Okay, so I'm going to take this class photo box and put it on the outer div. Sorry. So I have a div within a div. There we go. Save that. Reload. Again, I did it the wrong way. I want it in this div here. X that out. I want it in the, oh, actually, I want it in the paragraph. I don't need the div. Should the container be a paragraph or a div? It should be a div. So let's put it here. Class equals box. Save that. All right. So I got rid of the box around the paragraph. Oops. Space. Save. Reload. No. Oh. Yeah. Can anybody see what happened? No. You guys awake out there?
I don't know.
I'm
For
here.
some reason, my border is not showing up.
Well, if your border's not showing up, make sure you have both border style and border width specified. So you have to give the style as well as a width. You have to do both to make a border show up, border style and border width.
Okay.
So give it a border style solid or border style dashed or something like that. So I'm trying to figure out why my photo box is applying to, because the whole div ends there. Duh. Let's get rid of that end div. And we want the div to end right there. There we go. Now I just want the box around the photo. Oops. Image. Oh. End paragraph. See, a nesting order is extremely important. Need to end the paragraph right there. Okay, where's my typo?
Well, your other part doesn't have any paragraph.
Oh, I see. There's the end. Sorry, wait. Kink, there it is. I found the typo. What, Leslie?
Nothing. But why is it a div and not a span?
You know, it could be a span because of the way I wrote the directions. I could change them because the directions say an image within a paragraph and then a div. So I was just trying to, and actually I should have rewritten them a little differently. Image in a paragraph and a div. I mean, it should have been in a div and a div, but I think I didn't want to do that to confuse you because normally, okay. It just says image in a paragraph and a div. So I'm just going to follow my own directions there. So I have an image and the image is here. The image is inside this paragraph here. The paragraph is inside this div. And the whole thing is inside the outer div. And the class of photo box should really be on the paragraph. So I'm going to X that and put it there. Okay, save. And so now I'm getting a little closer to what. Okay. Oh, P class.
So now do you still need 2 divs?
Yeah, I have a typo somewhere. Oh, wait.
At the top.
Okay, I'm going to split this up so it's easier to see. I have, starting from the inner to the outer, I have this image. There's the image. The image is inside this paragraph. This paragraph is inside this div. Okay, that all looks right. And that div ends down there. Not exactly what I want though. What is, save that, let me just restart this again. Okay, div, paragraph, image. I should probably just do this with 2 divs and get rid of the paragraph. The, what I really, yeah, you know, the photo box is supposed to be, here we go. We're gonna do this. That's what I really want to save. Why is the, where's the end of that div? It shouldn't look like that. Div, classing div, paragraph, image. I have the image inside the paragraph, inside the div, and it's not working right. I don't see my typo. I probably have one. I see all my ending brackets. Leslie raised her hand. Hey, I like the way that shows up on the screen.
So there's a whole bunch of text after the end of the one of the divs. This, I guess it's the second div. And then that one doesn't have any paragraph around it. Why does that not matter?
Oh, I see what my problem is here. That's not supposed to be, yeah, I have okay. Starting from the inside, we have the image. The image is inside of a paragraph. The paragraph is inside a div. The div has a class of photo box, but the image is floating, and it's the div that needs to be floating because the div is what I want the border around. So I am going to put the float on the photo box. See how this works. And we're going to just get rid of the image for now in terms of styling. Save it. Okay, that's actually closer to what I was trying to do. Okay, does that make sense to you, Leslie? Or were you?
Yes, my question was not, it was about the rest of that, the type that's wrapping around your photo.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's fine that that does not have a paragraph tag around it.
You know, it should technically be a paragraph because I'm assuming it's a paragraph, but because I wrote the directions by saying apply, put an image inside a paragraph inside a div, I'm just doing it the way the directions say to do it. But yes, you're right. It should normally be a paragraph.
Well, it doesn't seem to matter. I guess the
Well, the reason it would matter is, and this is why I probably should have written it a little differently. I can change it. Is that you normally would not float you can't float a div inside a paragraph. And I really shouldn't define this as a div. Maybe I should define it as a span. So I'm going to kind of ignore what I wrote, and you can adjust it when you do the exercise. But I'm going to write it. I'm going to do it a little differently than the word for word in the exercise, just because I think it makes more sense to have this really be a paragraph because it's a paragraph. And
well, I was thinking that if you needed to style all your paragraphs some way, then that piece of text wouldn't get, it would be lost.
well, let me. The reason I wrote the directions I wrote in a weird way, and because I was looking mechanically at making sure you got all the properties and everything, but I wasn't thinking logically when I wrote this because you would normally want to float this photo box inside a paragraph, and not have it be a div because you can't put a div in a paragraph. So to make things easier and more understandable, let's assume that the outer thing is a paragraph, and we're going to change the div to a span, kind of like the example you saw earlier. So this is going to be a span, and let's see, span class equals photo box, and this goes away. Now the image is inside a span. Oh, the joys of coding. And you have to, oh, I can't really spell, can I? All right. So what I have now is, let's start from the inner to the outer. I have an image. There's my image tag. It's enclosed in a span. The span has the class of photo box. And the whole thing, oh, let's get rid of that. The whole thing is inside of a paragraph. There's the ending. All right, so let me just stop there and then tune this up. All right, so we're back to that. Does that make more sense, Leslie? Makes more sense to me. So now we have an image inside a span inside a paragraph. And so the span is the thing that's going to take the class of photo box. The span will be what's reused. So in other words, the reason it's better as a span is because a span is a building block that you can throw almost anywhere. You can throw a span in a paragraph, you can throw a span in anything, as opposed to a div, which you can't put in a paragraph, for example. So this makes more sense to make a modular building block that I want to reuse. So the directions weren't written in mind doing it this way, but it's the same stuff. You're just going to apply properties to different things. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to fine tune this. So now going back to the, yeah, that's a little too much space on the bottom. It's because of the way the lines break. Top, right, bottom, left. Let's go to 5 on the bottom. Save it, reload. Oops. I'm just going to fine tune this a little. How about 6? How about 7? This is actually going to change anyway. 7. What did I have before? 8? At 8 is where it jumps to the next line, isn't it? Save. Yeah. Okay, well, maybe I'll go back here and make this 18. Let's make it a little more even. All right, we're gonna leave it like that for now because we're gonna add stuff under here anyway. It's gonna change the spacing. So what I'm gonna do is inside the bordered box, I'm gonna put an image credit right under the image. So first I'll just put some plain text there, then we'll style it. So right below the image, oh, and by the way, where's my, here we go. So you see this little span section here, this whole little building block? I'm gonna X that out. What happens if I paste it somewhere like there in the middle of the paragraph? Watch how the float works. See, so floating, wherever I put this thing that's floating, wherever I put that in the text, that's where it stays, and the text flows around it, in this case to the right, because I'm floating the thing to the left. But I'm gonna put this back up at the top. But wherever you put it, that's where it floats. So if you put it at the very beginning of the paragraph, then the paragraph starts right after it. Now, let's put a photo credit in here. So I'm going to put a photo credit right beneath the image. Now, an image is an inline level object, correct? Which means if I put some text right after it, will it go under the image or next to the image? I hear you're all thinking the right answer. Yeah, and that's not what I want. So let's start that way. So within the span after the image, I'm going to put photo : John, because I took the photo. John Gomsky. All right. So I save that, and this is not going to be what I want. Yeah, that's kind of weird. So a break would simply fix that. So if I put a break right there, I'm sorry. If I put a break right there, that's one way to do it. If I save that and I reload, then we get a little better. Okay, so far so good. Now, I want to align that to the right. So how would I do that? Anybody?
In your photo box, would you call out for text to be centered?
Well, the problem with the way I've done it with just a break and not putting the photo credit in its own little box is it's harder to style just the photo credit. So if I had another span and I enclosed the photo credit in the span within the span, and this program didn't duplicate span for me because it's trying to write the code for me as I type. Now I'm going to get something even more interesting. We're back to that, except that, oh, it's time for a break already. Okay, let me snooze that for just a second. Except that I can still put the break in, and then I would have an easy way to style just the credit. Okay, so we're back to that. Now, because the credit's in its own span, I can style, oops, am I missing a, oh, okay. Since the credit is in its own span, it starts and ends there, I can style that by selecting that span. Now, I could do that two ways. We'll take a break in a second. I could give that span another class and maybe call it photo credit, or I could use a selector that says if a span is within a span, style it a certain way. We haven't really covered that yet, so I'm going to give the span a class, which is the wordier way to do it, but easier for now. And I'm going to give this span a class of photo credit. And I'm going to create a photo credit, oops, photo credit. I'm going to create the photo credit class up here. Dot photo credit. And let's style the photo credit a little bit. So let's say I want the text align to the right. Anybody? Text align right. Yes, I heard you thinking it. So the text align property can be left or right. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm aligning it to the right under the image, and hopefully that will work, and it didn't. Text align right, photo credit, why not? Photo box, oh, photo credit, I spell it right? Yes. I end the span? Yes. Where's my typo? All right, photo credit, text line right. It is not aligning to the right. Did I save it? Save, reload. Okay. Anyway, we'll take a 10-minute break and I'll figure out where my typo is. So let's take 10 and come back at 8:02. Okay. And all I have to do is stop sharing my screen.